Namaste. I, I welcome you all on today's webinar on ecology, environment, and Gandhiji. I respect, I, I, I request our chairman, Professor S. Narayan sir, to welcome the guests and to introduce today's theme.
You are not introducing. Anyway, uh, our all experts and the panelists are most welcome. Society for Empowerment is with today's webinar is completing 1 year. Continuously, we are holding webinar for last 1 year, and Ashish Neeraj is with us for last 1 year. Continuously, he is supporting us in holding the webinar, and we have experts, people from different part of the globe. We started with the problem of the migrant laborers in last May, and today again we are in the same pandemic situation, and the migrant laborers are even today. But we are happy. I'm happy to share with you that the our webinar on migrant laborer has given result as commission on migrant laborer in some of the states of the country, and some of the rules act meant for the migrant laborers has also been incorporated considering the pandemic conditions. So we are some of our webinar which were on health issues. The last issues was on health issues. That was also very well appreciated by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of the central government of India. So it is in practice in last 1 year that whatsoever webinar we are doing, that we share with the government, and then we have the discussion whenever it's required. We have discussion with the government, and some of some of our webinars has been adopted as the policy of the government. The others are partly or fully, it is very much there. So whatsoever we discuss here on this platform is always shared by the government. Each program is shared with the government, and then the some of them have been taken as a policy input by the government, by the state government, by the World Health Organization, or by the other international agencies like UNICEF or the UNDP or something like that. So all those things are there. So ours is a now international. It is an international think tank. It's considered as a think tank. So we have a now with this webinar we are also introducing a section of book review, that we will be all those people who have made a important contribution and wants that the attention of the government or the international organizations, agencies should be drawn. Then we will review the book and we will place it in on our website also, and in some of the webinar we will be discussing that also. So that new dimension we are adding from our second year of this webinar series, the Society for Empowerment. Society for Empowerment is primarily made for the research, uh, action program, training program, and theoretical research. We have the we have done recently, we have submitted a report to the state of Chhattisgarh for the sustainable development. And then we are likely to work for this economic survey for the state of Jharkhand. Then we are also thinking to on the status. Especially, we have a very great person, a good person, Anurag Srivastava Sahab, Dr. Anurag Srivastava, who was in AIMS. Now he is a chief medical officer with Bhalco in Raipur. He is expert. He is one of the expert of the country. In our country, he is one of the expert on cancer. So with his support, we are trying to work on the tribes of India, on the health issues of the tribes of India. Likewise, with the Professor Krishnaraj, we are trying to do some work at the economic survey in Jharkhand. Like that, we are trying to do. And since uh, this Dr. Anant T. Malla, she is from Virginia, so I greet her. This is first webinar for her. This is first webinar for Dr. Anurag Srivastava and Padma Shri Dr. Chandrakant ji. So I welcome them, all of them, to this Society for Empowerment webinar series, and we expect that we will be able to do some more important research with their contribution, especially in the tribal and rural India, which deserve our attention for from public health perspective and from the policy perspective also. And from Mrs. Manga, I especially expect she is a great politician in USA, and she is doing important work for those who have some political issues or any other issues in USA. She is working for the women in USA, for working for the workers in USA. She is a very upcoming leader. She has been recognized as one of the important leader of the USA, and she is with this Congress, with the present government of the USA, and she holds important position. So I expect that with her support, we will be able to do some more work, maybe collaborative research if so desires. It is all up to you. We are ready to collaborate. The Society for Empowerment is ready to collaborate, and we have uh, today we have Dr. Chandrakant ji, who is a Padma Shri awardee, who has received the Padma Shri, and she has done wonderful work on iodine and on mental health. She is one of the leading experts of the country. He is a very, very known name in the country for medical science. And we have Dr. A.K. Pandey. You know, Dr. A.K. Pandey is a topper of physics. He has done his PhD with one of the leading physicists of the country, and he is doing research, and he is busy with several kinds of research. So, Dr. Manga
And
and Dr.
NN
Vastu
Pandey sir has also joined.
Acha,
NN
now
Pandey sir
I
also
welcome
joined.
Mr. N.N. Pandey Sahab. He is also an IS and he is very studious. He believes in study and uh, in writing. He is also uh, from the IS cadre. So both these two people are there to support. So all of you are now the, and we are very selective in giving membership. So some of you are not member. If you want, then we first of all we will go through your resume and all the activities, and only then we will, if we are satisfied, then we will make you member of the society, because we don't want to make a big number of members who are of no use. Later on, we find that all that those they have academic issues. We are more concerned for the academic issues and policy research. And so for Dr. For N.N. Pandeyji, that Manga is from Virginia, USA, Virginia state in USA, and she is a politician. She is an
Yeah.
important politician from USA. She is from India. But she is now citizen of USA, and she lives in Virginia. Her husband is professor also in climate change and all that, ecology, environment. He is expert on that most likely. in one of the webinar. He will be also joining us. So this is all about today, and we are expecting Dr. Arun Gandhiji any time, any moment he can come. Generally, he comes around 7:30 or so. When he comes, then we will just say him namaste, and then our program will go, and he will address as soon as his time comes.
Yes, you
So
decide
with
whether you
this,
want to be inside or out.
yeah, as you decided. So with this, I will say that Gandhiji has said that nature has given everything to provide to fulfill our need, but the nature has not given anything to fulfill our greed. So if we care for need, and nature is there, and if we respect nature, then there is no problem of ecology and environment. If you see the tribals, especially the primitive tribals and the nomadic tribes, you will find they live in the nature. They have no problem at all. Neither they have any health problem, nor they have any other legal issues or other issues, because they live in nature and they enjoy living in nature. They eat whatsoever they have, whether if they, I have seen some of the tribes eating leaves of the plants or the trees, and with that they are satisfied. So there is a tribe called the Tana Bhagat who eat whatsoever they grow, and they wear whatsoever they spin, whatsoever cloth they made. They don't go for any other things. The new generation is becoming exception, but is still trying to maintain the tradition. So we call them as the living guardians. So the ecology and environment today we have suffering from a pandemic. The pandemic is a result of the exploitation and over exploitation of the nature. So we from the very beginning we believe in nature and we worship nature, but with the advancement of the science and technology, the exploitation of the nature has also aggravated, and that is causing all this kind of disease. So we are with this I would like to request that Gandhiji, whatsoever Gandhiji has said, we should follow that, so that this kind of pandemic should not be there, and we should respect the nature also, as we are respecting our friends or the family members. So with this, I would like to request uh, Dr. Chandrakant Pandav, Padma Shri Dr. Chandrakant Pandavji, to give his address to address the scholars. Namaste.
धन्यवाद प्रोफेसर नारायण. हमारे डॉक्टर अरुण गांधी, आई अंडरस्टैंड इज गोइंग टू जॉइन अस शॉर्टली. माय
Yes.
यंगर ब्रदर अनुराग श्रीवास्तव, हमारे छोटे भाई है सर, डॉक्टर अनुराग श्रीवास्तव, माय यंगर ब्रदर. डॉक्टर एन पांडे जी, प्रणाम आपको. डॉक्टर ए के पांडे,
नमस्कार।
प्रणाम. प्रोफेसर कृष्णराज, नमस्ते, नमस्कार. I'm very proud, Mega Madam, that one day you should become the President of United States of America. President, the First Lady, you should be there. I'll pray to Lord Shiva. हम शिव जी के भक्त है. हम लॉर्ड शिव जी का आप देख ही रहे पीछे तांडव नृत्य. पांडव है इसलिए तांडव नृत्य भी कर सकते हैं. हम कभी सूर्य गणेश का नाम लेते, सुख करता दुख करता वार्ता विघ्नाची, गणेश जी का आशीर्वाद लेके हम शुरू करते हैं. नमस्ते, नमस्कार, नमस्कार.
नमस्कार।
करोड़ा 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 करोड़ा, ये क्या किया तुमने चमत्कार. करोड़ा करोड़ा, ये क्या किया तुमने चमत्कार. आजकल सारी दुनिया करती है एक दूसरे को नमस्कार, एक दूसरे को नमस्कार, सारी दुनिया करती है नमस्कार. एक्चुअली नमस्कार इज योगिक मुद्रा. जब आप दोनों हाथ, इट्स अंजनी मुद्रा, इट्स नोन एज अंजनी मुद्रा. व्हेन यू ब्रिंग योर टू हैंड्स टुगेदर, इट्स एन अंजनी मुद्रा. यू ब्रिंग योर हैंड्स टू योर चेस्ट एंड यू गो डाउन एंड स्माइल. That time my Atma is communicated to your Atma. And it's a gentle reminder, Buddha Parthada Paramatma. So Namaskar में भी मुद्रा है. हमारी, I'm very proud of Indian culture. It's so rich. We forgotten. Because of colonial rule, हमने सब भूल गए पुराना. We forgot the past. But I'm very proud of my cultural heritage. Very, very proud. Very proud. So I would like to thank my team. Can you have the slides, please? I would like to my team. Pandav है हमारे पांच शागिर्द है. Five students are working with me. So I'm going to set a slide. So webinar on ecology, environment and Gandhiji. इसका एप्लीकेशन किया तो EEG आता है. अनुराग it's called ecology, environment and Gandhiji. I'm Chandrakant Pandav. I'm the I'm the colonel of the team, and I have five people helping me: Dr. Archana Singh, Mr. Karthik Reddy, Mr. Vignesh Reddy, Dr. Rishikesh Kedari, and Sushmita Mukherjee. हमने महाभारत में गलती की. कल हमारे बड़े भाई हम कल को आज हमारे टीम में इंक्लूड करें, क्योंकि कोरोना से लड़ने के लिए हमें 106 पांडे और 100 कौरव की जरूरत है. सबसे जरूरी हमें भगवान श्री कृष्ण की जरूरत है, श्री कृष्ण की. आई टेक यू टू नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. नमस्कार. सबसे पहले मैं आप सबको विनती करता हूँ, लेट अस प्रे फॉर ऑल दोज माय फेलो कलीग्स, डॉक्टर्स, नर्सेस, पैरा प्रोफेशनल, ड्राइवर्स, सपोर्ट स्टाफ, एनफोर्समेंट अथॉरिटीज and all those who are working behind the stage. Let us pray and express our gratitude. हम उनको धन्यवाद देना चाहता. शुक्रिया, शुक्राना कि अपनी जान धोखे में जान के हमारी जान बचा. शुक्रिया, शुक्राना, धन्यवाद. Now let's start with the main presentation. Actually, it's going to be a very quick. आप चिंता मत करिए. I finished in 15 minutes. So these are the 17 points I'm going to share with you very quickly. Next point. We believe in Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The world is our family. This is mine. That is his. Says the small-minded. The wise believe that the entire world is his family. And Corona has already reminded us this world is a family. It has crossed all political boundaries. Political boundaries have crossed. Culture, caste, creed, color, gender, place of residence, doesn't respect. So the whole world is one family. That's the message I learned from Corona. I also call Corona as my guru because it taught me many things. In Purusha Suktam, हमारे प्रोफेसर कह रहे थे, there is a Shanti part where we pray for worship for the Supreme and also for the welfare of all, including not only human beings but plants, animals, and as well as inanimate things. The next slide. Now let's come to the father of nation. The earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need. हमारे प्रोफेसर नारायण ने शुरू में बताया, the earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not for every man's greed, said Bapuji. And Professor Narayan just reminded us in his opening speech. Now, humans, environment, and pandemics. Disease and illness have destroyed humanity since ancient times. The more civilized, so-called civilized humans became, large cities, more exotic trade routes, and increased contact with different population of people, animals, and ecosystems, the more likely pandemics would occur. This is also true in the Grand Trunk route, where the Silk route. What happens is with rapid modernization, boundless gets created and new opportunities for interaction between human and animal that sped up civilization from Antonio plague in 180 AD to the recent severe acute respiratory syndrome, Ebola, and now the swine flu of the 21st century. Now, this is the timeline of historic pandemic. We are not civilization is not to the not alien to the pandemics. And today we have the 20th pandemic. The 20th pandemic in the year 2020 is novel COVID-19. Animals, environment, and pandemics. As Professor Narayan said, there is an interaction between land degradation, micro communities are shared, habitat loss is there, and there is increasing interaction among animals and species. This is the anthropogenic environment change that has occurred. And the spillover is that a lot of among wildlife, livestock, and people it takes place. Most of the disease agents were part of natural cycles that involve only animals. I repeat again, most of those disease agents were part of natural cycles that involve only animals. They spilled over into humans because nature was disturbed in some way, in a very cruel way, I would say. And as a result, we push animals into closer contact with human beings. On the left-hand side, you see one animal market in China. Look at the size. It's not only ghastly, but it's ghostly sight. Most of these decisions are part of the natural cycle that are only involve animals. Since human beings destroy the nature, that's why we get animals came in closer contact with humans. Mahatma Gandhi said, There is enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. Historically, we hunt animals, eat them, traffic them. We cut down trees and destroy their shelter, sell animals as exotic pets around the world. All these situations lead to an environment where a pathogen like virus can jump from animal to human being, where it may cause a new disease. And COVID-19 is a classical example of this particular feature. Now, my understanding of Gandhi is like this. He was for Sarvodaya, social and economic upliftment, and his guiding principles were Satya and Ahimsa. His strategy was Jan Andolan, best reflected in Dandi March and hunger strike. And the turning point in Bapuji's life was when he was pushed off the train in South Africa, in Pietermaritzburg. Then what he did, he did Bharat Darshan. He practiced what he preaches. His dress khadi loincloth or dhoti. His diet was vegetarian. So that's my understanding of Gandhiji in very simple words. Next. And you all know about Gandhiji's life. I'm just quickly showing his glimpses of his life, pictures. Again, a series of pictures which you are all familiar with. Now, what happened is Mahatma Gandhi lived in Aga Khan Palace along with his wife, Kasturba, and his secretary, Madhabai Desai, and Srimati Sarojini Naidu. Unfortunately, Kasturbaji and Mahadevji died in the premises of this palace, which was turned into a prison. The corner of the palace was served as a samadhi dedicated to two of them. Some of the ashes of Mahatma Gandhi are placed next to these two samadhis. I had an influence. I studied in National Model School in Aga Khan Palace myself. So I had a tremendous influence for my life. I studied there from 1963 to 69, from class 6 to class 11. What I learned in the school was the values of truth, the right way of living, non-violence, respect for elders, secularism, gender equality, and freedom. As you know, Aga Khan Palace served as the prison for Mahatma Gandhi in Pune from August 1942 to May 1944. When he gave the call of Quit India movement in Mumbai, he was sent to Pune and his Aga Khan Palace was converted to jail. And I'm so blessed that I studied in this environment for 6 years. Now, Gandhiji was also influenced a great deal by Jainism, which was founded by Vardhaman Mahavir, which is again in Bihar. Jainism looks at nature as living entity. Jainism exalts human beings to continue to purify themselves by respecting diverse life forms. The Gandhian idea of Satya and Ahimsa is extremely relevant to reduce the greed of society. Sarvada movement, it means Sarva Sabka Uday. It's a progress for all. It was a term first coined by Bapuji in 1908. And Sarvada means universe uplift or progress for all. The concept of Sarvada is also similar to that of sustainable development. Today, the world is talking about sustainable development goals. but हमारे बापूजी ने पहले ही दिया था. Gandhiji's vision of Sarvodaya implies a healthy development and environment. Sarvodaya forms a part of environmental ethics. Together, it can be evolved by man to ensure its harmonious existence with nature and other living beings as well. Gandhiji did not recognize separate rules for separate spheres of human life. He saw all spheres in an integrated manner. This is very important. He saw all spheres in an integrated manner. This exemplifies the best of human ecological perspective. When what Bapuji preached and practiced corresponds to what we today call eco-friendly measure and living in harmony with nature. I'll repeat this paragraph again. What Bapu preached and practiced corresponds to what we today call eco-friendly measure and living in harmony with nature. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् भवेत् ओम शांति शांति. This is extracted from Upanishad, which may everyone be happy, may everyone be free from all diseases, may everyone see goodness and auspiciousness in everything, may none be unhappy or distressed. Om Shanti Shanti. It is health that is real, wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. Bapuji said that again and again. I repeat, it is health that is real, wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. The WHO definition of health to holistic health, according to the World Health Organization, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely absence of disease or infirmity. This definition was given in 1948. Now, rather than focusing on a specific pandemic, illness, or specific parts of the body, holistic health is an approach to life. I repeat, holistic health is an approach to life. This ancient approach to health considers the whole person and how she interacts with his or her environment. The following are the 8 important dimensions of holistic health. There is the physical, mental, social, emotional, intellectual, environmental, financial, and economic. I will talk about it later on in some other forum. Next slide. One world, one health is the current concept. 60% of existing human infectious diseases are zoonotic. 60%. At least 75% of emergency infections, like disease of Ebola, HIV, have an animal original. 5% new human diseases appear every year. 3 are of animal origin. And 80% of agents with potential bioterrorists are genetic pathogens. You can see the importance of zoonotic causation of disease, is the causation of diseases. So we are moving towards one world, one health. हमारे संस्कृत लिटरेचर में हमारे पुराणों ने बताया था वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, one world, one health. Human health, animal health, and environmental health. That's what Bapuji preached. You must have respect for animals. You must have respect for the environment. Human health is not a single entity. It's so interdependent on animal health and environmental health. Now, they call me as ID man of India. 10 out of 17 edges are related to ID. Shall we move to the next one? As we enter UNICEF headquarters in New York, one is greeted by the world was not left by our parents, it is lent to us by our children. I feel that nature is the most beautiful thing we have. It is something that we all have in common. Flora and fauna are my best friends. I talk to them every day, observe them and learn from them. They are my gurus. I take away a message from this, drawing inspiration from Bapuji. I'm leading the universal salt radicalization movement, not only in India but globally. Salt for freedom, and I added salt for freedom from preventable brain damage. 300 million IQ points are saved every year in India, and 4 billion IQ points are across the world because of this policy. So finally, I took you very quickly through all these 17 points. This will be available for printing if you want, Professor Narayan. I'm ready to submit an article. I already submitted the full article, but the PowerPoint is also available in public domain. तो इसके साथ मैं सबको धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ आपको सबको धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ मौका दिया मुझे प्रोफेसर नारायण अनुराग श्रीवास्तव जी ये मेरी टीम है तो आपको सबको धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ शुक्रिया शुक्रिया नमस्कार
आपको
Thank
बहुत
you very
बहुत
much,
धन्यवाद
Dr. Pandav.
सॉरी
Thank you very much, sir.
शुक्रिया
For your
धन्यवाद धन्यवाद
thank you very
आपने
much,
मौका
sir.
दिया
For
प्रोफेसर नारायण और
आपको भी
हमारे
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद
अनुराग आपने विश्वास दिखाया बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अनुराग हमारे छोटे भाई है बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सर प्रणाम
प्रणाम
thank
प्रणाम
you.
बहुत बहुत ही अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन आपका है आपने शॉर्ट में सभी चीज़ों को एक साथ प्रेजेंट किया है मैं चाहूँगा कि आप किसी और हमारे अगले किसी प्रोग्राम में आएँ और अलग से फिर आपके साथ कोई और एक एक्सपर्ट लेकर आपका ज़्यादा समय तक का हम आपसे चर्चा करना चाहते हैं वो हम किसी वेबिनार में कर लेंगे
सर हम हमारे क्रिकेट टीम के आप कैप्टन है हम ओपनिंग बैट्समैन हमेशा रहेंगे और हमें सेंचुरी हर मैच में हम तेंदुलकर के कहा आई कम फ्रॉम पुणे सो आपके यहाँ हमेशा हम ट्रिपल सेंचुरी मारेंगे ट्रिपल नॉट 100 नॉट 200 बट और नॉट 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 आई स्टे नॉट आउट 300 प्लस
बिल्कुल
Thank you.
बिल्कुल आप रहेंगे आप इतने बड़े डॉक्टर हैं हमारे देश के भारत के बड़े डॉक्टरों में आपकी गिनती होती है तो इतने इतने लोगों का आप जीवन देते हैं तो इसलिए मैं चाहूंगा कि सदैव आपका ज्ञान का लाभ हम लोगों को मिलता रहे इस आपके माध्यम से हम लोगों के माध्यम से आम आदमी को भी मिले क्योंकि हमारे जो व्यूअर्स हैं वो बहुत ज्यादा हैं वो इस प्रोग्राम को देखते हैं तो उन तक आपकी बात पहुंचेगी तो वो अपने स्वास्थ्य के बारे में बहुत सारे चीज आपसे जानेंगे तो बीमारियां कुछ कम होंगी तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपको
Thank you very much, sir. Now I will like to request Dr. Anurag Srivastav, sir, for your kind deliberation. Dr. Anurag Srivastav, sir.
Namaskar. Can I share
Yes.
my screen? Can I share
Right.
my screen?
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Share screen.
Kindly select that screen.
Okay.
Sir, your screen is visible, but kindly open your presentation.
अच्छा
Minimize this window and open your presentation.
हाँ open हो गया
हाँ सर,
Can you
इसको सर
see?
स्लाइड, यस सर, इसको स्लाइड व्यू में डाल दीजिए।
स्लाइड शो में ठीक है?
या फाइन, हाँ ठीक है सर, ठीक है,
जी,
फाइन।
आवाज ठीक है? आवाज ठीक आ रही?
यस सर, एवरीथिंग फाइन।
Okay. Professor Narayan sir, Professor Chandrakant Pandav, my teacher, my guru in epidemiology, and all the senior members. And if Professor Gandhi has joined, pranam to him, and all the Dr. Mangala uh, from Virginia, Dr. Pandey, Professor N. Pandey, and all the senior members. Very good evening and namaskar from state of Chhattisgarh, central India. And I'll be very brief because a lot of ideas have already been expressed by Professor Narayan sir and Dr. Pandav. So there's a very oft repeated saying from Mahatma Gandhi, we have enough for our need but not for our greed. And I feel that the present crisis of health, the life, and the universe around us is a testimony of our gross neglect, that we have neglected these laws of nature which were set forth way back in the Vedic literature by our Rishi Muni, and since the beginning of human evolution, and we have been neglecting those laws, and the net result is all before us. Gandhiji stated that we constitute one universe, one Brahmand. That was his philosophy, that the whole earth is one living entity, a manifestation of cosmic energy, a cosmic unit. And according to his cosmic law, all humans and other creatures, animate, inanimate, all creatures are actually one entity. And to harm the earth or any of its living beings or plants, animal kingdom, is actually harming that unit of Brahmand. And we have been ignoring this all the time, disturbing the ecosystem, disturbing the Brahmand, and the net result is before us. He believed in the uplift of villages, Gram Vikas, Gramodaya, and village centered Vikas. Today, we hear very fanciful terms like making smart cities. We don't hear of making smart villages. Why? Making more and more big cities and bringing, urbanization, we are actually harming our ecosystem, harming our human society, and increasing the risk of various diseases what are manifest today. So Gandhiji believed that if we have simple life, follow the principle of truth, non-violence, satya and ahimsa, and promote sustainable development of our villages. And he also encouraged others to protect and live in a state of harmony with Mother Nature and all its belongings and creatures. This is perhaps the greatest message from Mahatma Gandhi about keeping our environment in a state of harmony and equilibrium. What we hear of green revolution and eco-friendly, eco-green, all this was very succinctly stated by Mahatma Gandhi. He said that we should avoid mass-scale industrialization and urbanization. He did not like the machine-based development of human society. He supported more of the development of small villages, Grameen Vikas, and sustainable living within small units of villages, like providing basic education, providing basic primary health facilities within the village, and basic amenities of life in each and every village. Of course, he was very knowledgeable about health and about nutrition. And I was fortunate to work for 31 years in All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi, which is located very close to the place, very holy place on our universe called Gandhi Smriti Bhavan. And this is where he spent last 144 days of Mahatma Gandhi's life were spent in this Gandhi Smriti Bhavan, which was actually Ghanshyam Das Birla's house, and this is where he was shot by Nathuram Godse. And so I used to very often visit Gandhi Smriti and sit in the room where he used to do, use the spinning wheel, चरखा काटते थे, और भगवत गीता वहां एक रखी है, उनका चरखा रखा है, उनका चश्मा रखा है. तो मैं वहां जमीन में बैठ जाके आंख बंद करके प्रार्थना करता था, महात्मा गांधी जी मुझे शक्ति दीजिए कि आपके बताए रास्तों पे सत्य अहिंसा पे चलूं और देश का समाज का सेवा करूं. तो वो बड़ी सुकून मिलता है. और उनका जो गांधी साहित्य है वो पढ़ता था. तो उसमें एक छोटी सी पुस्तिका है, की टू गुड हेल्थ. आपको हिंदी इंग्लिश सभी भाषाओं में मिल जाएगी. तो आई यूज्ड टू परचेज इन बल्क एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूट इट, जस्ट 5 rupees वन booklet, and it has so much of wealth of information about health and nutrition. It's really amazing how much he knew about health. So I used to purchase in bulk, say 50 copies. पहले हमारे 50 स्टूडेंट्स होते थे एम्स में, तो फिर रजिस्ट्रार ऑफिस में देता था. जैसे न्यू बच्चे आते थे एमबीबीएस में, तो सबको एक एक पुस्तिका वो बांटते थे हम लोग. तो बड़ा अच्छा लगता था कि गांधी जी का जो टीचिंग है वो हेल्थ के रिलेटेड, वो सब मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स को जो एम्स में ग्रेजुएट्स नए आ रहे हैं उनको उससे परिचय कराया जाए. फिर एक हम लोगों का क्लास होता है, बड़ा यूनिक है. वो हमारे प्रोफेसर JN पांडे साहब, आपने नाम सुना होगा, बड़े विश्वविख्यात फिजिशियन थे, मदर टेरेसा का वो इलाज करते थे. तो उनको अभी इस वर्ष पद्मश्री मिली मरणोपरांत. तो डॉक्टर पांडे वहां पे हम लोग डीन्स कमेटी में होते थे. तो उन्होंने एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सेमिनार शुरू करा मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स, एमबीबीएस बच्चों के लिए, हाउ टू बी अ गुड डॉक्टर. तो 2 घंटे का सेमिनार होता था 5th सेमेस्टर स्टूडेंट्स का. तो उसमें हम लोग ये पुस्तिका का फिर बारे में चर्चा करते थे, गांधी जी की फिलॉसफी, स्वामी विवेकानंद की फिलॉसफी, भगवत गीता की फिलॉसफी. तो गांधी जी knew so much about health and nutrition. He was almost, you can say, a professor of nutrition. He used to do experiment on his own body. कभी उन्होंने 1 महीने कोई एक वेजिटेबल खाई, कभी कोई एक अनाज खाया, कभी एक अन्न छोड़ दिया, ऐसे बहुत वो एक्सपेरिमेंट करते थे अपना. और उनको बहुत ही नॉलेज था. कभी उन्होंने लिखा है कि आई हैव हर्ड कि जो ग्रेन्स होते हैं वो होल ग्रेन खाने चाहिए, पॉलिश्ड राइस, पॉलिश्ड ग्रेन नहीं खाना चाहिए, क्योंकि उसमें पेरिकार्प होता है. जस्ट इमेजिन हाउ मच नॉलेज ऑफ बॉटनी ही हैड, कि उसमें पेरिकार्प होता है जो कि पॉलिश करने से हट जाता है, उसमें विटामिन होते हैं, वो नष्ट हो जाते हैं, फाइबर. तो इट्स रियली अमेजिंग. ऑल ऑफ अस शुड रीड दिस, की टू गुड हेल्थ. एंड ऑफ कोर्स he knew so much about yogasana and pranayama. He used to practice himself. And if you see any of his documentaries, how fast he walks, dandi march mein dekhiye kitna tez chalte the. To and he was trim and slim, all his life. And of course, cleanliness is next to godliness was a very popular saying from Gandhiji. And he condemned way back in 1929. I read there's a nice book, India of My Dreams. तो उसमें कलेक्शन है जो उनके यंग इंडिया में और हरजन, तो कई उन्होंने जो लिखते थे समय समय पे, उन सब का वो कंडेंस्ड, शायद डॉक्टर राजेंद्र प्रसाद साहब ने बनाया था, इंडिया ऑफ माय ड्रीम्स, कलेक्शन ऑफ हिज राइटिंग्स. तो उसमें एक जगह उन्होंने लिखा है कि मैंने सुना है कुछ साइंटिस्ट से कि टोबैको से, स्मोकिंग से कैंसर हो जाता है. This is way back in 1929, before Surgeon General of America declared that tobacco is related to cancer. That was 1964 or so in US. And this gentleman knew way back in 1929 that tobacco causes cancer. So see the fathomless knowledge this gentleman had in relation to health. उन्होंने एक जगह लिखा है इंडिया ऑफ माय ड्रीम्स है सर, कि अगर मुझे एक दिन का डिक्टेटरशिप मिले भारतवर्ष का, तो फर्स्ट थिंग आई विल डू, आई विल क्लोज ऑल लिकर शॉप्स इन इंडिया. So amazing, so powerful, thought process. And it is sad that our present system has totally ignored his philosophy and opened wine shops, liquor shops, Angrezi sharab shop, Deshi sharab theka shop, almost in every nook and cranny of the all towns, on highways. The worst thing is having liquor shops on the highways. So truck driver, taxi driver, or लोग रुके हाईवे पे, ड्रिंक किया और चल दिए. What will happen? You know, fatal accidents. Stressed on the importance of naturopathy and herbs. And he himself used a lot of naturopathy. He used to read books on naturopathy, and he used to avoid allopathic medicine unless he became very sick. एक बार उन्होंने लिखा है कि I became very sick, कुछ उनको डायरिया और हो रहा था, बहुत एकदम ऑलमोस्ट डेथ बेड पे हो गए थे. तब उनके डॉक्टर ने बहुत एम्फसाइज किया, उन्होंने दूध छोड़ दिया था. तो फिर बा ने कहा कि नहीं बापू, आपने कहा है कि गाय का दूध नहीं पीऊंगा, तो बकरी का तो पी लीजिए. So, on the insistence of this, his personal doctor, physician, and Ba, that he started Bakri ka doodh, goat's milk. So he believed in naturopathy. And of course, he was a strong proponent of Swadeshi movement, burnt the Videshi, foreign clothes and all. And he criticized modern civilization. He did not like machine-based civilization. And he had postulated in those days that machinery will generate more problems as well as unemployment. And what we are witnessing today in the countries where machine-based growth has occurred, and the stark example is our neighbor, everything, even in our country, is almost with this mark made in China. And what extreme of this state कि जो हम लोग दीपावली में पूजा करते हो, जो गणेश और लक्ष्मी के जो पूजा करते हैं, उसकी मूर्ति भी हमारे गांव का कुम्हार नहीं बना रहा, उसका जॉब ले लिया है मेड इन चाइना के गणेश और लक्ष्मी आ रहे हैं. होली खेलिए, उसमें गुलाल जो आ रहा है, जो कि पहले गांव में लोग बनाते थे, वो अब मेड इन चाइना आ रहा है. तो दिस इज एक्सट्रीम ऑफ machine based growth, and it has led to so much of unemployment. Our own gaon ka kumhar, jo pottery maker, who was making all these Ganesh, Lakshmi and other pots and gulal and has lost his business, his job. And this was all predicted by Mahatma Gandhi. So he stated that Swadeshi movement should involve boycotting all the imported goods, imported clothes, and he preferred making his own clothes by spinning the spinning wheel, the charkha, and that is a symbol of Mahatma Gandhi, charkha. We always portray Mahatma Gandhi with his charkha and his khadi movement. He loved Mother Nature so much, and he said, I need no inspiration other than nature's. She has never failed me as yet. She mystifies me, she bewilders me, and sets me to ecstasies. What a great, powerful statement. Mahatma Gandhi always respected Mother Nature and did everything conceivable to maintain its peace. He insisted on respecting all living beings, including all non-human species. Great proponent and beginner of the Sarvodaya movement, Progress for All. Gandhiji's concept of Sarvodaya meant a healthy development and environment to ensure that a man's life is in a state of harmony with Mother Nature and other living beings. Had we implemented his policies of growth, development, and self-sustainability of our villages, farmers, teachers, and the weaker sections of society, perhaps we would have had a better world to live in. Perhaps our current crisis of environmental pollution, overcrowding, and a growing range of infectious diseases could have been avoided or at least delayed by adapting Mahatma Gandhi's approach on slowing the race for urbanization and industrialization. Thank you. And I end this session by saying again a very powerful quote from Mahatma Gandhi, Namaste. I honor the place in you where the entire universe resides, a place of light, of love, of truth, of peace, of wisdom. I honor the place in you where, when you are in that place and I am in that place, there is only one of us. Eko ham bahushyam. Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi. मैं ब्रह्म का अंश हूँ और आप भी वही हैं. This is a saying from ancient Vedic literature. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anurag Srivastav, sir, for your kind deliberation. Kindly close this window, sir.
Stop. Stop sharing.
Now I will like to request Ms. Manga Anantamula. She is 11th Congressional District candidate in US. Dr. Manga's presentation will be played by me and she will deliberate it. Welcome, ma'am. Kindly unmute yourself.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you. Namaskar and good morning and good evening to the viewers. And I really thank this great opportunity to present my views about ecology, environment, and what we have learned and what Gandhiji has taught us in his actions and what he demonstrated to not only to India as a father of our nation to the entire world. I don't know. In my opinion, people call him father of the nation, but in my opinion, he is the father of peace for the entire globe. Whoever bestowed that title on him did a disservice to the rest of the people in the world, not allowing us to own him. So he's definitely the father of peace, not only peace for people, peace with our nature, peace with ecology, peace with our animal world around us, and how we live coexist with our nature. And I'm really honored to be here and to present my views. And to talk about ecology, environment, and Gandhiji, what do I actually need to say more than just reading that statement, which is so profound, which is, I need no inspiration other than nature. She has never failed me as yet. She mystifies me, bewilders me, sends me to ecstasies. This beautiful quotation by Mahatma Gandhi speaks volumes about Mahatma Gandhi, and it is so profound of a statement that it personifies his spiritual and ecological understanding, and it only reminds us that we are just the beholders of nature and we are not the masters of nature. And ecology and environment wisdom of Bharat. And we have, coming from the Indian background and coming from a very traditional family, I understand the Vedas and the importance, how it teaches us to live in peace and coexistence with our scriptures. Our scriptures, these are just few examples that I just want to share with my American views, where I come from, and what I would like to contribute to American culture and what I cherish. Pushtischa, pushtischa me, meaning give me good health. Krishishcha me, may agriculture be with me. Vrishtischa me, rain be with me. Apascha me, be water be with me. Oshadascha me, may medicinal herbs be with me. And so on, and may animals be with me. These are the examples and these are the teachings that we have grown up with, that I think we can impart to the rest of the world, where our values are and how to learn to treat nature, just not abuse it. And learning from our past and facts, in line with the ancient wisdom of India, we believe that planet Earth is a living organism, and human and other species are the integral part of nature. Living in harmony with nature is a key to sustaining life and preserving life on this planet. Uh, we got this wisdom thousands of years ago from our sages and how to live in perfect harmony. And people like Gandhiji, time and time, great people like Mahatma Gandhi came to this earth to remind us about our responsibilities towards nature. Nature provides us. We survive because of nature, but we also need a reminder, constant reminder that we depend on the nature and we are not the masters of nature. And we all know we have environmental challenges that we face and we have to get over there. How do we do that? Ecological footprints of cities. They are consuming the forests, the agriculture, the water, and the surfaces, and all our natural resources. We need to be very cognizant of the ecological footprints that urban living is causing and what damage it's causing not only to our planet, to our own being, being healthy and living in and healthy surroundings. And needless to say, technology has helped human race to expand the sociology of urban and rural continuum of communities, contributing the change in our individual lifestyle. So this urban lifestyle is just expanding with the cities. So we are losing just not the forest and the rural areas, but also losing a lot of resources. And the ecological footprints of mega cities such as New York and Tokyo, and by the way, New York is only the 11th, and New Delhi is the second largest mega city in the world. And these are 100 times larger than the actual size of the ecological footprints that we are leaving by polluting this planet and by not taking care of the planet. And urbanization and industrialization, needless to say, has led to water pollution, noise pollution, global warming, deserts formation, and deforestation, air pollution. And here also we are dumping nuclear waste into the nature. And Gandhiji's idea of modernization was never to produce by mass, but only to be produced by mass and not a mass production. So that means we need to curtail certain greed that we have in ourselves that we are contributing to the expansion of these megacities and causing ecological imbalances. And industrialization and urbanization also led to economic growth and population growth. And in terms of US, I definitely would like to say economic growth has become one main reason to say we have a population growth, expansion of population growth has become so enormous for US these days that it attracts immigrant population from all over the world and people who come in search of economic growth, they want to dwell in the cities and megacities, therefore expanding our urban life and urban lifestyle and culture. And this migrant population also come for not only economic growth, they want to enjoy the urban lifestyle of United States and freedom and liberty. I think freedom and liberty is one big component why immigrants come in search of uh, American dream to make this land their home, and also for better education and better opportunities. Needless to say, we do have not only population issues that is growing these days, but also the growing of urbanization and advances in medical sciences. In a way, we are blessed to have all these medical advancements that has decreased the infant death rates and also increased the lifespan among the adults. But this population explosion that caused has also in turn giving opportunities for an uncontrolled urbanization and industrialization. Because we have so many people, we need to meet their requirements, their needs. And by doing that, as an economic growth, this industrialization has itself become a huge market to lure people into urbanization. And then it starts with the abuse of natural resources. More the population, more the resources we consume. I mean, the nature has given enough for our need, as Gandhiji has mentioned, but not for our greed. But we are also abusing natural resources and overuse of fertilizers, synthetic foods, and GMOs, leading to poor quality of life. And what is this synthetic and GMOs mean to our life and our general well-being? I mean, this is a direct quote that I got from NIH website, and this is exactly what they say and think. And even those questions in this section are not by me, and these are the questions NIH is trying to answer, uh, whether it is even uh, needed for us to go for this um, kind of GMO kind of foods. And what does this technology for genetically modified foods offer? Promise for meeting some areas of greatest challenge in the 21st century. All new technology, some risks, both known and unknown, controversies, and public concern surrounding GM foods. So, needless to say, we have so many questions to be answered, consuming all the genetically modified organisms that we are used to consuming these days, and the effects of engineered foods. This consumption of genetically engineered foods can lead to harmful effects of diseases that are immune to antibiotics. This is exactly what our GMO foods that we are used to eating is doing to our bodies. We are harming our own health, whereas our scriptures are saying, preserve your body, protect your health. And this also violates some religious and cultural beliefs, and I wouldn't touch more into it. And dependency on depending countries, poorer countries who have to depend on this engineered food may always have to become reliant on the advanced countries to even feed their own people. I think these are the drawbacks of genetically engineered foods. So, natural growing crops, like Gandhiji has always said, grow your own foods, and we eat our own organic food. And the consequences of not maintaining um, our planet and ecology has serious consequences in our life, such as poor quality of life, higher incidence of new and chronic diseases, extinction of many species, degradation of quality of natural resources, air, water, or land, and higher incidence of natural disasters. I mean, a lot of scientists do not believe that we are contributing to natural disasters, but then there are a group of people who also believe in Gaia hypothesis, which is if Earth is a living organism. It also knows how to take care of itself when its ecology is imbalanced in form of natural disasters. So, needless to say, we need to protect our environment, and this is also causing low and social human values. More expansion of the urbanization happens, the lower the social and human values. So, are we willing to trade in our values for uh, urbanization and urban lifestyle? And environment and civic responsibilities. Environmental friendliness must actually start at the individual level and not to be preached, but to be practiced. And doing little things at the individual level may save our environment. We can save electricity. I think US is the biggest consumer of electricity, water, or natural resources. Um, we have everything in abundance, and we also abuse these natural resources uh, recklessly. So, saving electricity is one little way to contribute to saving our environment. Saving water, carpool when possible. And Americans are so pampered, they take their car to exercise to a nearest 0.3 mile gym while they can walk to a gym to exercise. So there are so many ways we can carpool to work, then walk our bike to the nearest grocery store, and it's a walkable distance for like shopping. And we also cut out of trees for our printing purposes. And it's a request that we should all learn to go paperless and printless. And we need to have get into the habit of recycling. When I talk about recycling, I need to share my experience living in Japan. They recycle in 5, 6 different bins: the glass, the metal containers, the cartons, the paper, and the garbage that comes with food and everything. Everything is recycled differently, and they really do value and they really love the nature that you drop one small tin or a paper on the ground, they would pick it up in front of you, put it in a bin. And I would also say reusable beverage containers. I think this is somewhere, I think every American, uh, every Westerner can learn to not use the beverage containers that are plastics, eliminate plastics. In my last trip to India in 2019, I have realized Indians, for most purpose, they still do follow recycling methods using the beverage glasses that are recycled again and again. I think they also stopped using plastic bags in their shopping carts. I think most Western countries can learn something from countries like India, where we can self-sustain, protecting our environment. And environmental civic responsibilities. And I need to give another example of Japan, how they are improving and making people more responsible and people making their governments also more responsible. They have started several programs for the neighborhoods that in a small government given lot, they would encourage the neighbors to grow a pond or a garden that they can grow and share the fruits and vegetables. They're free. That land is for the neighbors and the neighborhood to use. They breed ducks. They breed um, lotus flowers, which they consume as food. and they also in small piece of land grow vegetables and fruits, and they clean it themselves, and they to the extent possible, you will never see government authorities coming and cleaning the neighborhoods. Such is the involvement of people and commitment of people to the roads and the government and the tax dollars that people pay. And I would also like to give another example from Japan, where we need to start the self-reliance and also the sense of protecting our own nature and how to be self-reliant from childhood. Their school curriculum just does not have the subjects to teach, but gardening and growing food in the schools, and they use those produce to cook and serve the students in the school. And they also clean up the kitchen, they clean up the garden, and they clean up the bathrooms, and they serve meals. And all these activities are done by children and not by uh, people in the school. Thus, you are teaching your children to be humble. You're teaching your children to be always be involved in farming and to be respectful of nature. That's a great lesson to learn from them. And this is a picture of a little kid in the school serving milk to other students when he has his opportunity to volunteer and clean and do things. I think this is a great example that we can learn from Japan, that we can all implement little by little, right from our childhood, right from starting from schools, elementary schools. And that's how we get into the habit of respecting the nature, being involved in nature, and that's how we learn to protect our nature too. And uh, and the desired outcome that we want from all these small practices that we want to believe in and want to ask people to also contribute to. And this is an individual responsibility that will definitely influence the local and the federal governments, and to also protect our government through sensible lawmaking. And for sensible lawmaking to happen, we also need to insist uh, our people to be more responsible in electing their leaders. I mean, we need responsible leaders and sensible lawmakers to make such beautiful things happen as it happens in Japan. If government is taking care of people, people are also taking care of the government resources. It has to go hand in hand. Either the people can want their country to be prosperous, to be eco-friendly, or they would want their leaders also to respect their ecology and lead their lawmaking to benefit the people that they represent. And I think I thank everyone for this opportunity, and I would really appreciate if you have any questions, please do
Thank you,
forward.
thank you, thank you very much, Manga Anantamulaji. As we are running short of time, so now I will request Professor Krishna Raj sir from ISCC Bangalore for his kind deliberation.
Professor Krishna Rajji is one of the well-known economists, and he is responsible. He was made responsible for Atmanirbhar Bharat economic input. All that is his effort. So he is a part of the economic advisor committee of the government of India to give economic advices. But at the same time, he has made equally important contribution in the field of ecology and environment. So I think he will make a good presentation. Uh, Raj.
Sir, kindly put your presentation in slideshow view. It's fine, sir. Fine. Sir, kindly unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Okay, now it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay, sir.
Yeah.
Kindly
Good evening,
put it
all.
on.
Thank you for inviting me for this very important webinar on ecology, environment, and Gandhiji by Professor S. Narayan.
Sir,
Uh,
put it on slideshow view.
yes.
Fine,
I
fine.
humbly submit that before all the panelists, experts. I am not an expert on Gandhiji, and with my limited knowledge, I try to share my views about economic thoughts of Gandhiji, which I interpret to the current development situation in India and also environmental conditions, particularly on climate change. Mrs. Manga has given a very
Sir,
beautiful
sir,
account of.
sir, just a minute, sir, just a minute. I would like to welcome our chief guest and president, Dr. Arun Gandhiji. Ji. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Professor Krishnaraj, you can continue, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, with my limited knowledge on the topic on Gandhiji, I'm not the expert on Gandhiji, but I would like to share a limited knowledge I have acquired on economic thoughts of Mahatma Gandhiji. I'm happy to have on this seminar Arun Gandhi, Dr. Arun Gandhi, the grandson of Gandhiji. I'm happy to meet you, sir.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Yes, thank you, sir. Uh, the topic I have chosen for today's presentation is on climate change and Gandhiji's epitome of economy of permanence. Even though Gandhiji was not heard of the term called climate change in 1940s or 50s, early late 50, early 50s or even 40s. Might be he might be aware of the temperature, the level of temperature, uh, very hot situation, hot condition, etc. But the recent development is in the field of environment and ecology and also economics is that climate change is a new phenomenon which is affecting all over the world, and the countries are facing several problems, including now COVID pandemic, because of the mutation of various viruses around the world, primarily caused by the natural resource destruction. So, because of time limit, I will focus only on two important issues on Gandhian economic thought on climate change and environment and ecology. The first is that the concept promoted by Gandhian economist called J.C. Kumarappa is that it is on the economy of permanence. And second issue I am going to focus is on that the natural resources and sustainable livelihoods, particularly on the concept of Sarvodaya. So I briefly explain the climate change in recent time period and what are the reasons for that and where we are now. So the climate change is induced by relatively recent rapid economic development. Climate change is a global or transboundary externality, what we economists call, because it imposes high cost on the society with high carbon growth in recent years because of vehicular growth and industrial pollution and other greenhouse gases emission. So climate change is the biggest challenge of the humanity in the 21st century, triggered by the mounting greenhouse gases and consequent increase in the average temperature on the Earth. So as per the some of the IPCC reports, the average temperature of the Earth has been increased around zero point 0.5 degrees Celsius to 1 degree Celsius because of the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, particularly in stratosphere. So when the scientists have discovered the man-made gas called chlorofluorocarbon, which is highly used in cold storages, so everyone was happy in using without any restrictions. So in 1970s and 80s, it is discovered that the chlorofluorocarbon (CFCs) are responsible for destruction of ozone layer on Antarctica and over Arctica. So this is how the science, even though plays an important role, but the science has its own limitations when compared to natural resources and their functioning. So the world economy, therefore we call it the world economy, is richer with 83 trillion US dollar, but environmentally poor due to emission of greenhouse gases and consequent climate change, which imposes high economic and environmental cost on the society at large. Especially the poor countries are highly affected because of the climate change, because they have very less resources, economic resources, to adapt to the new climatic conditions. So the impact of climate change includes extreme temperature, severe droughts throughout the year, and floods in several parts of the world, insect outbreaks and health impacts like COVID-19. Today, the humanity is facing the pandemic, declining of water resources, particularly the groundwater table, and pollution of rivers, rivulets, increased wildfire, especially you might have seen in Australia and parts of USA, especially in California state, and reduced agriculture yields because of high doses of fertilizer use, chemical fertilizer and pesticides use, and lands are becoming more polluted and barren. So in this way, the climate change is imposing high cost on the society at large, and we are not in a position to cope up with these costs. So this is mainly attributed to the rapid industrialization. The climate change is mainly attributed to rapid industrialization, mass production of goods and services which are exported and exchanged throughout the world under globalization, and mass consumerism. We have seen a mass consumerism in recent years because of the growth of many big bazaars and many consumerism uh, establishments under the economic model of capitalism, which has squarely undermined the environment. So, the combating climate change is a big challenge for the world. You have seen even Kyoto Protocol was there, and even Paris Agreement was failed, and even US did not sign the Paris Agreement. There are chances that under the new regime of new president, they are promoting the climate change issues. So, if you look at the cost of the climate change, as per the Stern report, Stern review in 2007 published, the cost of climate change are highly pervasive in nature. The Stern report on economics of climate change observes that the economic cost of climate change are significant and capable of severely aggravating economic and environmental problems, particularly in poor countries. So climate change affects everyone. However, the economic development benefits a few. This is the problem with the capitalism or the current model of economic development. So the economic development affects the climate change. However, economic development benefits only few people. That leads to unequal distribution of income or benefits of development, which is certainly against the concept of Gandhiji Sarvodaya. So further, the climate change imposes high social cost on the society, and industries and corporate companies which cause climate change hardly spend on mitigation of climate change. The paradox is that even though the climate change is caused by the industrialists and corporate companies, the society is bearing the cost, or the society at large is bearing the cost instead of the industries and corporate companies, they are bearing the cost. So this reflects the situation of privatizing the profits and universalizing or socializing the losses. So the losses are socialized and profits are privatized in recent years because the climate change is the best example one can give. So this shows that appropriation of global commons, including climate, even oxygen, pollution of atmosphere. So by a few rich business tycoons. In other words, the cost of climate change is borne by the government and profits are appropriated by the business. So when it comes to conservation of natural resources, conservation of common property resources, or even provision of public goods, and uh, it is the government and public, they are spending the money to safeguard their own interest. So the profits are appropriated by the business. They are never bothered about the public goods and also common property resources and environmental resource base. So this reminds the grim situation of financing climate change predominantly by the government and hardly by the private sector, which makes a huge profit by appropriating environmental resources and polluting ecosystem services throughout the world. So the policy efforts towards mitigation and adaptation of climate change remains a challenge given the poor financial resources made available by the companies. So therefore, under these circumstances, we need to think, there is an urgent need to think and recognize and value the role of nature and its resources for the survival of the people and sustenance of the economy. When we talk about survival of the people, it is the intra and intergenerational survival of the people, and equity issues are highly concerned. So Gandhiji advocated, if you take these circumstances into account, if you go back to Gandhiji's ideas, what he advocated, what was his views on the economic development and also the environmental conservation. So Gandhiji advocated that the laws of nature are universal. So the laws of nature are universal, we need to respect them. And laws of economies are not universal. They are very limited because economies are depending on nature and nature does not depend on economy. So economy is a small part of the universe or nature. So therefore, the man needs to respect nature, not necessarily respecting the economics. So economics in the sense that livelihoods are based on the nature provisions of goods and services. So therefore economic laws aim at material progress need to be formulated according to the laws of the nature. So what Gandhi says is that, so whatever economic laws you make, whatever economic policies you make, that should confine with the laws of the nature. So that is his basic and fundamental argument of how economy should develop based on the natural resources available in a particular country. So the economic loss of a country need to be determined by the factor endowments. For example, USA has capital endowment, whereas in case of India, it is labor endowment is there. So we need to develop the economy based on the labor and nature, which are coexist, which need to coexist because they are our endowments. Capital is not our endowment. Capital is very poor country. India is a capitally very poor country. So such natural resources they play a very important role in economic development. So these Gandhiji's economic thoughts, like economy of permanence, are popularized or uh, uh, by the Gandhian Gandhian economists, are also the follower of Gandhiji. So this is considered as economy of permanence. When we respect the nature's law, and economics laws are entwined with integrated with nature, then it is called as economy of permanence. So the epitome of a model of economy of permanence would be based on sustainable or limited use of resources against the current method of the mass production and mass consumption. So Gandhiji was completely against the mass production and mass consumption and also wasteful resources. So Gandhiji propounded that environment has limitations to fulfill all the material consumption. Instead, it meets the basic needs of human race. So Gandhiji's popular view is that the nature meets all the basic needs, not the greedy nature of the human beings. So therefore, the economy of permanence is based on two principles. One is on that the nature law should be respected by the economy, and second thing is that nature fulfills all your needs, not your greeds. So therefore, limited consumption is the answer to all problems the humanity faces today, from the scarcity of basic environmental goods and services to pollution of the environment, such as climate change we are facing today. So, in order to give a beautiful account of the how economy of permanence should be achieved, so he states that in order to answer the environmentally disruptive practices of the modern industrial economies, Gandhiji favored the idea of small is beautiful. So, a small is beautiful is an idea, a village-based development in the form of traditional subsistence economy, which aims at meeting local needs using local natural resources and local human skills against the environmentally disruptive, capital-intensive based mass production and consumption. So he favored he was just against the present manifestation of economies such as parasitic economies, parasitic in the sense that we are interdependent on other countries for imports and exports, parasitic and predatory. Sometimes we steal the resources of other countries by force or other political means. So that is called predatory economy. And the enterprise economy led by WTO and World Bank and other international organizations, they support the big entrepreneurs. They exploit the natural resources of even less developed countries like Africa and Asian countries like India and other countries. So therefore, he favors aggregation economy, and finally he favors the society with higher values and duties, rather emphasizing on rights that will lead to make the way for an economy of permanence or economy of services. So he favors the economy of service or economy of permanence over the parasitic economy, economy of predation, economy of enterprise, and economy of aggregation. So these economies are against the ethos of human beings and human principles and natural laws. Therefore, one should strive for achieving economy of services. However, the question arises is that the main issue is that the model of economy of permanence is very difficult to execute in the real world. In the real world. So the applicability of economy of service or economy of permission is limited because people should have a strong moral education. Then only they coexist. They can help others. They exist like a brothers and sisters in the society. So this is completely called as altruistic values the society should develop. Then only we can achieve the economy of permanence. So helping nature, one should help others and they should understand others' pain as our pains. That is altruistic values. So then only the economy of permanence can be visualized or achieved. So, however, what went wrong and whether the Gandhiji's ideas were recognized in the history of economic development in India, if you ask such questions, and one needs to think over what happened in 1947 onwards. So the world lost many opportunities to make development a sustainable one. So sustainable development was the new concept developed recently, but the Gandhian idea of economy of permanence was there. So, from the applicability point of view, the sustainable development is more applicable and we can execute when compared to economy of permanence because the economy of permanence requires more values, more educational levels, and the people should be more philanthropistic and altruistic in nature. So, India after independence in 1947, there was a lot of views how to make economic development, whether we have to adapt a capitalistic nature of economy or we have to adapt a socialistic nature of economy of erstwhile USSR or capitalistic economy of the America. So when this discussion was going on, Nehru followed the policy of mixed economy, which was originated from England. So if Gandhi were survived his assassination for some more years, he might have influenced the economic policy, which is more focused towards rural development. So the first 5-year plan would have been on rural development rather than agricultural development. Second plan on industrial development, like that. So the Nehru had given a more importance to industrialization that was also required, industrialization and creating more employment opportunity. So the Ambedkar, these three leaders, they played an important role in economic development of the country. On the other hand, Ambedkar favored the migration of rural people to urban people because the villages
Professor
tended
Krishna
to
Raj
be.
Saab,
Yes,
Krishna
sir.
Raj Saab, uh, Dr. Arun Gandhi ji is with us,
Okay, sir.
and you know what you are talking about. I have written long back. The name of
Okay.
the book is Plan Development and Gandhiji. It was
Right, sir.
published
Right.
sometime in 1979 and 80. There we
Right.
have discussed all those things. Uh,
Okay.
so that is very much there. We want to listen from Arun Gandhiji because he lived with Gandhiji. He has seen many things. So he will give the real picture to us. What we give as an academician or as a theoretician. So if you allow me, then I will we will proceed with Arun Gandhi ji with a 5 or 10 minutes giving to Ellen Pandey ji. It's
Okay.
all up to you. It's all up to you.
Shall I
Am
stop
I
here?
audible?
Uh,
Hello.
shall I stop here, sir, or what do you expect from me?
No, I expect to conclude.
Conclude within 2 minutes. I'll conclude, sir. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
sir.
Okay. Okay. So, so there were attempts made in the world towards achieving a environmentally sustainable development, especially in 1972 in the Stockholm Conference on Human Environment. The topic of limits to growth was discussed, and later it was not supported by the many governments. But in 1987, the World Commission on Environment and Development published a path-breaking book called Our Common Future. So that made sustainable development as a important policy in the world. And even the later Earth Summits, 1992, they favored the sustainable development. Otherwise, the economic development will destroy the lives and livelihoods of people and also environment. But the world economy is swayed by market forces led by IMF and IBRD over United Nations organizations, which led to adoption of capitalism as format of economic development. So India has also faced the same situation in 1991 and adopted the policy of LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So the outcome is very clear. If you look at the various socio-economic indicators for India, in respect to human development, global hunger index, slavery, happiness, multidimensional poverty, and economic inequality, so, the India is having almost all the problems today. So this is going against the principles of Sarvodaya and also principles of sustainable development or economy of permanence. So even in environment also, the environment is highly polluted, and India's environment before 1991 and after 1991, we can see there is no principle of sustainable development in recent years. So, even though the Gandhian principles, they have influenced the sustainable development goals, such as how economic objectives can be achieved, growth with equity and efficiency, social objectives, social cohesion, cultural identity and institutional development, social mobility, etc., and environmental objective, recognition of biodiversity and natural resources in economic development. So these are some of the thoughts of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar are embedded in the new principles of sustainable development approaches. So there is also another topic I can discuss, but due to limitation of the time, I stop here. That is called Sarvodaya, the Gandhiji's idea on rural development or cottage industries. So finally, what I would like to conclude is that today the economy under capitalism is having several sins of what Gandhiji said. So wealth without work, investing on stock market, people are not working and they are investing on real estate and gambling. They are making money. Pleasure without conscious nature is exploited for tourism and other purposes, and knowledge without character, earned education with fake certificates, and commerce without morality, profits are made, flouting rules, corruption. Science without humanity, artificial intelligence is promoted, genetically modified crops are promoted. Religion without sacrifice, religion is used to achieve political end, and politics without principle, no principles are expected among politicians. So the new normal is remove the term without or out and retain with. So wealth with work, pleasure with conscience, knowledge with character, commerce with morality, science with humanity, and religion with sacrifice. So this has become a wealth is earned without work. Now it is we need to convert them with wealth with work, pleasure with conscience, knowledge with character, commerce with morality, science with humanity. That should become the business as usual, rather than the seven sins, which are very, very prevailing in the current world, uh, even in the capitalistic economy. So, sorry for the taking time, and I conclude with saying that the earth has sufficient resources to satisfy one's needs, but not for one's needs. Therefore, humanity must learn to live within the limitations of physical environment, as propounded by Gandhi and also Earth Summit. Thank you, sir. I'll stop here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you very much. Sorry
Thank you very
request you to wind up, but
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
next time
Thank
we
you, sir.
will do it. So
Yes.
I
Thank you.
welcome Dr. Arun Gandhiji. Namaste.
Namaste.
And now, with your permission, I would like to request Sri N.N. Pandeji is to make his presentation in short time so that we can listen Arun Gandhiji. We all want to listen him, so we can listen. N.N. Pandeji, kindly.
I will like to
My
tell.
respects to Dr. S. Narayan, Sri Arun Gandhiji, and namaste to speakers on the panel, Dr. Anurag Srivastavji, Padma Shri Dr. Chandrakantji, Mrs. Respected Mrs. Anant Mulaji, Professor Krishan Rajji, Dr. A.K. Pandey, Ashish ji, and others, different perspectives have been made with respect to ecology and environment and Gandhiji's stand on it. I, with my limited knowledge, thought as to why the state of things we are in terms of environmental degradation, what is the cause? And I could see a link between modern lifestyle and environmental degradation because you see, by over exploitation of resources, we are led to a situation where ecological imbalance has become the order of the day. Ecological crisis emanates from overexploitation of natural resources, and there is a direct correlation between consumption and environmental degradation. We have developed and internalized the values of a lifestyle which is part of an unsustainable and destructive development paradigm. So, in contemporary way of living, consumption has been elevated to the level of an ideology or rather a religion. Shopping has become the most important, exhilarating cultural activity for majority of the middle classes across the globe. You find malls have become the centers of contemporary civilization with restaurants, cinema halls, entertainment facilities, and whatnot. So, paradigm shift from being to having is what we witness today. The worth of an individual is judged by what he or she has and not by what or she is. So, being to be is being pushed by to have. Now, in such a scenario, having more and more is defining mode of modern civilization. Now, all philosophies, all world religions agree that pursuit of happiness is normally the goal of every individual. But is there a correlation between consumerism and happiness? To, to my mind, there is, but it is inverse correlation. That is, superabundance of material possessions and conspicuous consumption of goods and services makes people contented and happy is something which one has to think deeply. It does not lead to sense of fulfillment, and Indian ethos has been quite clear, and Gandhiji has been an epitome of Indian ethos, which said, "Sarve bhavantu sukhina." That is, individual happiness, if it is divorced from the happiness of the community, is of no meaning. Now, Gandhiji, by his observation and study, he developed a deep rooted conviction that all life is one. He did not believe in compartmentalized view of things, but he had a holistic vision, and his intuitive perception of oneness of life on the globe is the cornerstone of his worldview. He believed that all creation, be it living or non living, they are interdependent and that one cannot harm the other without at the same time harming oneself. So, therefore, this holistic vision was his thinking. He believed that everything in the universe is a manifestation of the ultimate. Isavasyamidam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. And therefore, every object is in nature is, be it highly evolved or less evolved, it possesses an inherent dignity as it is inherited from the ultimate, and therefore it should be treated as such with respect, with reverence, with dignity. So, Gandhiji's ecological perspective, as contained in the aphorism which my previous speakers have dealt with, that earth provides enough to satisfy everybody's needs, but not for anyone's greed, is derived from this ethical position, treating nature with reverence, protecting and preserving creation, and limitation of wants and consumption and simplicity are inevitable preconditions for such sustainable living. Now, directive principles of state policies have made a mention that government policies would be framed in such a way that local communities flourish, local panchayati raj institutions flourish, and that man lives in communion with the nature. But we have a long way to go, and with this introductory remark, I would not like to deal with things in great length because all of us are eager to hear Dr. Arun Gandhiji, who is present in our midst. So, my respects to all of you, and I would finish here. Maybe sometime later we would discuss this subject further because Gandhiji has lot of things to say, and all these SDGs which have come up from UN have strong resonance and resemblance from Gandhiji's teaching and what he stood for and his values. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. So, Dr. A.K. Pandey Saab, now with your permission, I would like to request Arun Gandhi ji because we want to hear him, and later on we will hear you. Will it be okay? Okay.
I
Now
think
I
that will be
request
better because I am also waiting for to hear him.
because it is a rare opportunity. We get him with very difficulty. We find him. So I think we should listen him. So now I request Dr. Arun Gandhi ji to say about the Gandhiji environment ecology because you know it much better about the Gandhiji than what we have. We know from writings of the different people or books which we have read and then we have written on Gandhiji. But you were part and parcel of the Gandhiji. You spent time with Gandhiji, so you can whatsoever you will say, we want to hear you. All people here want to hear you, and all those people who are listening on or watching on Facebook and another
YouTube.
things YouTube, they are also waiting to hear you right from 7 p.m. So I will request Arun Gandhi ji because we have a good number of uh, viewers on YouTube and Facebook who wants to listen you. So they contact us from last 1 week. They are contacting that yes whether you will come or not. So they are also viewing and watching to hear you.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with all of you, honorable people. And I would like to share with you just some aspects of my grandfather's philosophy. Um, One thing that grandfather always taught us when we were growing up was that when you point a finger at somebody, there are three fingers pointing back at you. So we have to look at our own weaknesses and our own shortcomings before we point fingers at other people. The question of whether the economy or the industrialists who are producing things are tempting us to buy things, or whether we are buying things because we want things. This is a question like the egg and the chicken, which came first. But the whole problem is based on consumption. We consume more than we need, and we waste a lot of things also. Considerable waste takes place in our life. These were very important issues to Bapuji, right from almost 100 years ago now. He was aware of what this kind of consumption and wastefulness is going to be, the effect it is going to be on the environment and the ecology. And so he had been speaking about this and he was practicing it. He always believed that we must live what we want other people to learn. We can't tell people to do things if we don't do it ourselves. I remember when I was living with Bapuji, he used to get sacks full of mail every day. And one of my duties was to sit there and open all the envelopes, mail, and pin them along with the letters properly. I was taught how to open the envelopes. They had to be very carefully pried open, not as we do today. We just tear the envelopes up and throw them away. He had me open the envelopes carefully so that he could write his replies on those envelopes and mail it back to the person in there. So his understanding of that consumption and ecology and environment was quite deep even at that time. And he practiced it in his life. He never wasted anything. He never used anything or never took anything that he didn't need there. And that was his daily teachings to all of us. I remember again, one day I was coming back from school and I had a little pencil in my hand, and I thought, like all young children, that I need a better, bigger pencil. I can't use this small pencil. And so I just threw the pencil away, thinking that grandfather would give me a new pencil when I asked him for one. But that evening, when I met grandfather and asked him for a new pencil, instead of giving me one, he subjected me to a lot of questions. He wanted to know how the pencil became small and where did I throw it away and why did I throw it away, and on and on. And I couldn't understand why he was making such a fuss over a little pencil until he told me to go out and look for it. And I said, Bapuji, it's already getting dark outside. How can I look for this pencil in the dark? He said, there's no problem. Here's a flashlight. Take this and go out and look for the pencil. And I think I spent about 2 hours searching for that pencil. And it felt very ridiculous and stupid that I was looking for a little pencil in the roadside. Everybody is asking me, what are you looking for? Did you drop a gold ring or something? And I had to say, no, I'm looking for a pencil. And they would laugh at me and walk away. But when I found that pencil and brought it to Bapuji, he said, now I want you to sit here and learn two very important lessons. The first lesson is that even in the making of a simple thing like a pencil, we use a lot of the world's natural resources. And when we throw them away, we are throwing away the world's natural resources. And that is violence against nature. And the second lesson is that because in an affluent society we can afford to buy all these things in bulk, we overconsume the resources of the world. And because we overconsume them, we are depriving people elsewhere of these resources and they have to live in poverty. And that is violence against humanity. And that was the first time I realized that all of these little things that we do every day, consciously and unconsciously, and the things that we waste and throw away, that all of that constitute violence. So when he was talking about nonviolence and peace, it was not just the absence of war. He didn't mean that we stop fighting and killing each other. He meant that we had to change our lifestyle so that we don't commit violence against nature and against other people. To make me understand the extent of violence that we are all practicing, he made me draw a genealogical tree of violence, with violence as the grandparent and physical violence and passive violence as the two branches. And every day before I went to bed, I had to analyze and examine everything that happened during the day. Things that I may have done to other people or people may have done to me, or anything that was important had to be analyzed and put in their appropriate places on that tree. Now, physical violence is something that we know and understand because we see it all the time. It hurts, and it's all the physical manifestation of violence, where we use physical force against one another. But passive violence is something that we don't know and don't understand, and we tend to ignore. It is the kind of violence where we may not even encounter the other person, but our actions and inactions hurt that person. It could be in the form of discrimination, looking down on people, the caste system, the oppression, the waste of resources, wasting food, for instance, when there are so many people living in hunger and starvation. All of these things that are become so much a part of our nature, a part of our lifestyle, all that has to be recognized as passive violence. And when I did this introspection, it was a form of introspection. When I did this, I was amazed that within a few months, I was able to fill up a whole wall in my room with acts of passive violence. The physical violence didn't grow very much because there's a limit to what physical violence one can do. But the passive violence was endless. And that is when grandfather explained to me the connection between the two. That we commit passive violence all the time, every day, consciously and unconsciously, and that generates anger in the victim, and the victim then resorts to physical violence to get justice. So it is passive violence that fuels the fire of physical violence. So logically, if we want to put out that fire of physical violence, we have to cut off the fuel supply. And since the fuel supply comes from each one of us, we have to be the change we wish to see in the world. If we don't change ourselves, we are not going to change the world. The world is not going to change on its own. It's only going to change when we change. So it's important that we look at ourselves in all of these problems that we see in the country today and see how do we contribute to aggravating that problem. And we do contribute by acting or not acting or doing the right thing or not doing the right thing. And if we do this honest introspection and bring about the change in ourselves, we will start the process of changing society and changing the world. That is what he did in his life. He became a Mahatma not by birth. He wasn't a great person by birth. And he didn't even have a great education uh, to give him that foundation. He was a very mediocre student. But at some stage in his life, when he saw what was going on in the world, he realized his own responsibility in there. And he began to look at himself before he blamed other people and changed his own attitude and lived it so that people could learn from his lifestyle. That is why he was able to say in his life, when somebody, a journalist asked him what his message for humanity will be after his death, and he said, "My life is my message." And he could say that with honesty because he lived an honest life. He made mistakes. Like every other human being, he had shortcomings and he made a lot of mistakes. But he learned from those mistakes and transformed those mistakes into strengths. And so it is something that we all need to look at and change in our own selves there so that we can ultimately uh, change the country and change the world. Today, the world has gone in the direction of consumption and industrialization. A few people become rich from it, and a large number of us have to live in poverty. Poverty is growing everywhere, although statistically they will tell you that poverty is diminishing, but I think you can see the reality in life where more and more people are becoming poor. And this can be avoided if we have a better understanding of each other and better relationships with each other. So these are important aspects for all of us to consider and think about when we talk about Bapuji and his philosophy. One thing that really transformed Bapuji and Kasturba was their visit to Champaran. When they visited Champaran and saw firsthand two things that really shocked them. First was the extent to which human beings will go to exploit other human beings for their own personal gains. They didn't expect that people would go to that kind of extent of exploitation as they saw in Champaran. The other thing that shocked them was the poverty and the lack of hygiene, which was attributed to poverty. Now, there is reason to believe that poverty doesn't necessarily mean that we have to live in bad hygienic conditions. This is something that I have seen personally. I have traveled a lot. I have traveled in Africa a lot. I have seen a lot of poverty in Africa too. But the contrast between what I see in India in poverty and the lack of hygiene and the lack of uh, understanding of the importance of hygiene, and what I saw in Africa, where equally poor African people were able to live a clean life. Their huts, although they were just mud huts or shanties, but they kept everything surroundings very clean. They made sure that everything was properly, kept. There, in spite of their poverty, they were able to live in cleanliness. And people who went there, and I went visited them, I didn't feel uncomfortable going into their places and sitting and talking with them, as I do when I go to India. I mean, I've seen so much um, garbage and filth and water and all of these flowing just outside uh, their homes, and they don't do anything about it. In the villages that I visited in India, I see this happening, and I wonder why. And one of the things that I came to the conclusion is that we Indians are very conscious of our personal hygiene, but not our public hygiene. Whereas people in other parts of the world are more conscious of public hygiene and maybe not so much of personal hygiene. So we in India will have a bath 3 times a day or 2 times a day. We will clean our homes very well, but we don't mind sweeping all the dirt from our homes right out in the street and in the yard in front of our homes. And we don't mind throwing waste outside on the streets. And that kind of habit that we have, which is not new. It's been there since Bapuji's time, and Bapuji and tried their best during their lifetime to make people understand the importance of not just personal hygiene but public hygiene as well. And I would like to believe that they did plant some seeds and people gradually are improving, but it's now 70, 80 years since we became independent. And every time I come to India and I visit India and see the conditions there, I don't see a lot of change in this kind of hygiene. So when we talk about environment and ecology, we have to think of these little things also because they contribute to destroying the environment. When we throw things around and create filth, um, we saw this happen in Surat because of the filthy conditions there. Plague hit them recently, and so many people died of plague. And we see this continuously happening everywhere. We haven't learned to change those habits and become cleaner and better. So when we talk about environment and ecology, we have to think about our own contributions to this and how we can change ourselves and through us change the world then. So these are a few things that I wanted to share with all of you. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay with you long because my son has just had a bypass surgery. And I was just told a few minutes ago before I joined in that he has been moved from the ICU to the general ward and he's eager to talk with me. So I have to get on a Zoom immediately after leaving you because otherwise it'll be too late for him. It'll be his bedtime. So you'll have to forgive me for not being part of the discussion and questions. And I hope that you will take these few remarks kindly. I don't mean any personal animosity towards anybody, but these are the facts of life, and I thought I'd share them with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we will we are praying to God for the early
Thank
recovery of Shar Gandhiji, and we are very much thankful to you that you gave us this much of time. And our one new guest is Mrs. Manga from Virginia, USA. She was more interested to
Hello.
meet you.
Nice to
She
meet you.
is a practicing politician. She is a practicing politician there, and we she wanted to have some blessings from you. Maybe some next time in next program we will have a detailed discussion on that. And
Oh,
Professor,
yes. Thank you. And
It sounds good health, sir. And I need to tell you that I grew up with Gandhian philosophies in my family because my grandfather used to go for Dundee March and everything with Gandhiji. And my grandfather's brothers also were freedom fighters and joined Gandhiji in the freedom movement. So I'm really honored to be on the same platform with you. And I really respect and thank Mr. Narayanji to have me here with you.
thank
Thank you.
you. Nice meeting all of you.
Thank you.
thank
thank you. And we wish that your son recovers fast, sir. We wish that your
Yeah,
son
thank you
recovers
very
fast.
much.
Thank
Thank
you, sir.
you.
Thank you. Namaskar.
so now Dr. A.K. Pandey Sahab, you want to say some, present your views, you are most welcome.
थैंक यू नारायण साहब वैसे तो प्रोटोकॉल में आफ्टर प्रेसिडेंशियल एड्रेस ओनली थैंक्स गिविंग remains there but I can add 2 or 3 words or points that though ecology, environment were not subjects of study at time of Mahatma Gandhi, but Indian society has long been living with harmony with nature. And the basic message of ecology and environment is how to create that harmonious living. When I was 4 or 5 years boy, then I used to learn from books that man has one nature. It can change nature, it can do wonders, and we are no more dependent on this. But what we have to do is two simple examples will explain. One is Kedarnath tragedy, where suddenly some rock broke down and some extra rain, and whole of the city around Kedarnath in that disaster that was destroyed, finished. No, nothing remained. While another disaster has been our Bengal or Odisha cyclone. Here, we displaced 4 to 5 million people. I don't know exact number. I think 4 lakhs people from their homes. And when tragedy came, they were at safe places, and the loss of life was natural, was minimal. So the basic principle is not to win the nature, but as Mother Nature has created us along with hills, rivers, and other things, live with harmony with nature. And harmony is that for that harmony, we must have knowledge of that. So, where Gandhi comes in, Gandhi's one single point stress was village economy versus urban economy. Why village economy? What is difference between village and urban society? Village is production based hutman, production based living society, while city is structure based. What I mean is that everything there is produced there and consumed there. Most of the things are there produced and they survive on this. While city survives on what they produced as extra. So total harmonious living with nature is more nearer to rural society than urban society. So that is why by instinct, though there was not subject like environment or not, he said that it is the rural development and rural administrative structures like panchayat raj and other things, they will take us to progress and harmonious living for long term, which we were doing earlier also. So with these few words, I think I thank all of you to give me opportunity to speak here, and hope that in next issues we will be going better. Thank you, Narayan Sahab. That is what I wish to add to whatever I learned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Pandey. Now, I think Dr. Anurag Srivastava or Professor Krishnaraj, do you want to have any question or you want to add anything?
No, sir, because after listening to Dr. Arun Gandhi, we are really happy to have a very good message. Particularly two issues he raised. One is on that the passive violence, and the second one is on the public hygiene, which is completely ignored by the people. So with these two messages, I'm very happy to have him along with us in the same platform. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some of my views also.
Thank you very much. I am sorry that I could not allow you to complete the whole
Yeah,
paper of
yes,
yours because
yes,
then he would have gone earlier.
yes.
So I thought that let us hear him. So
Yes.
I'm sorry for that because
No, no,
some next time
yes,
we will have um, another longer discussions on this issue or on some other issue.
thank you, sir.
Sir, can I?
Yes, yes, please.
Sir. So I heard all the wise men and one lady also, including great grandson of Mahatma Gandhi ji. So just one or two questions. We have learned from Mahatma Gandhi that we should focus on village development, ग्राम विकास, ग्रामीण विकास. लेकिन हम लोग क्या बात करते हैं गवर्नमेंट में और सभी सिस्टम में स्मार्ट सिटी बनाने की. तो स्मार्ट सिटी के बजाय स्मार्ट विलेज क्यों नहीं बना रहे? इट इज टाइम वी मेक स्मार्ट विलेजेस. नंबर वन, सर. And we have two very senior, eminent IAS officers, sir, who have the power to implement the ideas. So think of smart villages, sir. And number two is this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So I have been witnessing this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and even Atma Bharat, Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. And yet, at least in the medical field, sir, we have very poor implementation and program evaluation. So whenever we do some research, so I give one new drug or new operation, then we evaluate the outcome of that operation or new drug by rigorous outcome measures, outcome evaluation system. It's a program evaluation basically in management language. So long time ago, pulse polio program was implemented, and the team from All India Institute was developed under the leadership of Dr. N.K. Arora, and I was a member in that team. So we used to go to remote villages in Maharashtra, across the country, whole country, and we evaluated that program so well that the Pulse Polio program was a great success. I find that in the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, that program evaluation is lacking. I have taken pictures from अक्रॉस द कंट्री. जहां भी हम जाते हैं फोटो में जरूर लेता हूँ कि देखो दिस मतलब कोई उसको बुरा मत माने, लेकिन हर सिटी में देखिएगा सर, आप चाहे दिल्ली के अंदर देख लीजिए, हार्ट ऑफ द दिल्ली देख लीजिए, और दूसरे सिटीज में देख लीजिए, तो वो प्रोग्राम इवैल्यूएशन स्वच्छ भारत अभियान का ठीक से नहीं हो रहा है. जो गांधी जी तो कहना पड़ा कि हम घर के बाहर सब नाली बह रही है और गंदे पिग्स और सब जानवर होते हैं. तो ये दो चीजों को मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि इसमें कुछ करना चाहिए. प्रोग्राम इवैल्यूएशन ऑफ व्हाट एवर प्रोग्राम द गवर्नमेंट और इवन द एनजीओज और प्राइवेट सेक्टर suggests or tries to implement, program evaluation must be done, otherwise it just fails. And third is population. It is now we must realize that most of the ill effects that we are seeing, either health, poverty, economics, everything is related to population explosion. Nobody in the last 50 years has thought of controlling the population except one gentleman, Mr. Sanjay Gandhi. Other than him, nobody took and I think Shri Bhairav Singh Shekhawat ji. I was surgeon to Shri Bhairav Singh, Honorable Vice President, sir, and I did some operations on him. So, he used to call me and then tell about the story, how as a Chief Minister of Rajasthan, he implemented the population control by making some rigorous rules, like कि वो incentive नहीं देंगे अगर 1 से 2 बच्चे हो गए, अगर उसको टैक्स ज्यादा बढ़ा देंगे, प्रमोशन उसका नहीं करेंगे, इस तरह से. तो it is time, sir, our system, our honorable ministers and directors, IAS officers, take the population control seriously. It is everything else is related to that population explosion. Thank you.
Namaskar. Thank you very much. We have Professor Krishna Raj here with us. He is associated with the system as a member for the economic development of the country, and the Swachh Bharat and this Atmanirbhar Bharat, all those are his responsibility. So he is listening directly, and the our system is that we send the recording of this program to Prime Minister office and to concerned ministry, and then in 3 4 days time, we have a small discussion with them on the issues which they think that we have the correct issues, the issues which are important, which they consider it of importance. Then it is discussed with them and necessary corrections are made. So this is what that's why we have become a think tank. The Society for Empowerment has become a think tank, and I am very conscious in uh, giving membership to person, because finally I will be caught if somebody some such members are made who give some other kind of input which are not required, then it will be my responsibility. So I'm very strict in opening a membership to anybody else. So I'm sure that your things will reach at the right point, and what will be the result that uh, of your request, that of your question, that probably this is June. By August we will be in a position, by the end of August we will be in a position to give you the feedback at what happened to the whole things, because now most of the people are busy with the pandemic. So otherwise, you could have got the feedback earlier. So I'm taking the maximum time. At the end of August, we will be able to get some feedback. But definitely, this will draw the attention of the concerned persons in the government, especially the population. I agree with you, and then about the Swachhta program and all that. So all this will go, and the next program, uh, Neeraj ji will be in contact with you. Because of my engagements, it become very difficult for me to maintain all these things. But the constant support of Ashish Neeraj ji is making this program successful for last 1 year. And for Mrs. Manga, I am thankful that you make it, because and you presented your views. In future also, we would like that you be with us, and you bring some more intellectuals and some other people who are interested in India and the global problem, because we are the Society for Empowerment is now associated with the UNO and the other international bodies. So we are also good, recognized there as a think tank. So we can take your words to those places, or you yourself is more effective as a politician of USA. You are more effective than what we are doing here. But even then, as a platform, as an organization, we are here and we welcome you, because you belong to India. So we feel proud of you that you have made a petition in USA on your, but we are always with you in your political activities or in your academic.
Thank you, Professor Narayan. You can love your home, but you cannot love your home without your mother. So, Bharat is my motherland. So, I will always be rooted to my values and what I've learned and grown up in India. So those are the values that I cherish, and I definitely want to be engaged in whatever we can do from United States to keep this going, keep this collaboration going. And also, I would suggest, IAS officers and professors on this panel, that there's a tremendous need that we need to focus on children. Whatever we want to see make things happen in the present platform with the adults, I think children are our future, and we need to start focusing on children and training them to be what we want our future Bharat to look like, or even for that matter, I would say, even here back in US, our focus, and this is what I keep saying, we want to train our children to what we want to look our country to be looking forward in future. So please have some programs for children for beautiful Bharat and for uh, place everyone now feels that Bharat is the place where people can relate to when it comes to values or true friendship or maintaining international relationships. That's very important, and we can have this collaboration.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. I would like to inform you that society has an understanding as a it has a collaboration with the Ministry of Home Affairs of the Government of India, and we have organized two webinar on children's issue in collaboration with the Government of India Ministry of Home Affairs. And perhaps in the end of June or in the beginning of July, we are again going to have a program on children, children of this pandemics who have become the parent, whose their parents have, they have no parents now. So we will be doing a program on that in the either in the end of June or in the beginning of July in collaboration with the Ministry of Home Affairs of the Government of India. If you like, you'll be in touch with Ashish Neeraj and he will send you the invitation. Or even otherwise, whenever you want to give the most welcome, you can give me a call or to Neeraj. Okay, so thank you. You also want to say something?
Yes, yes. Just one word I have to add on the question of smart village, because Professor Krishnaraj is here. I have something to share. Years ago, we all used to go to the road where sugar mills were there, and we used to see hundreds of bullock carts waiting there. Now, by one IT application, they have started and managed a link with the farmers who have got sugar cane, and now they are managing it in such a way that they don't have to wait much at the sugar mill. Now that is the link between the sugar mill and the farmer. A similar link with city dwellers and village is needed, so that whatever is produced in the village reaches there timely and with little problem to everybody. So with idea of smart city, a smart village is automatically linked with, but it is duty of the city to create that linkage. I think that is what I have seen, and I think it will succeed if it goes with idea of a smart city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. So, with this, we would like to conclude today's program because we are already half an hour late. And answer with your permission, should we conclude?
Please conclude.
Thank you
Give
very much,
thanks
everyone.
to
Jai Hind, sir.
give
Jai
Thank
Hind.
you
thanks to
very much.
viewers also.
Yes, yes.
Give thanks to
Uh,
viewers also.
yes. Thank you, all the respected viewers, for watching this webinar for almost 2.5 hours. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai Hind.